ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीम् Verse number 9. उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं मग्नं संसारवारिधौ योगारूढत्वमासाद्य सम्यक् दर्शननिष्ठया. In the last session, we were looking at Jagadguru Srimad Chandrasekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal's commentary to this verse. Essentially, here Adi Shankaracharya had said that we have the responsibility to uplift ourselves. It is our own responsibility to lift ourselves from drowning in the ocean of samsara. And we do that by earning the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, that is the qualifications for Vedanta Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, being Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutvam, Shamadhi Shatkam, etc. By essentially earning that qualifications, we prepare ourselves to commence a study of Vedanta, and the result of that study of Vedanta is the right knowledge or Samyak Darshana. So the Yoga Rudhatvam refers specifically to Vairagya, but more generally to the Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, and the Samyak Darshana refers to the Jnana, and the Nishtha refers to Jnana Nishtha. And the direct means to moksha is the Jnana Nishtha. The means to Jnana is the Vedanta Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, and the means to the Shravana Manana Nididhyasana is the Yoga Rudhatvam or Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. Now here we had looked at the first few words. We had, for example, we had looked at why samsara was called an ocean, and there were various references that were provided from the Adhyatma Ramayana, from various other places, from the Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalamba Stotram, etc., to explain why in Shastra samsara is often compared to an ocean. And we were looking at this sentence which occurs in the middle of page number 8. Anadi avidyavashat agyaha karta manusyoham ityadi ritya sthula sukshma karana harireshu anatmasu aham iti swarupa apraptya sthitireva samsaravaradi magnatvam asanga satchidananda rupasya atmanah. So, the relationless Satchit Ananda, or the self which is of this nature, that is drowning in the ocean of samsara as the result of a beginningless ignorance. It is as though, so iva, that has to be added here. It is not that the samsara is a real samsara, it is a mithya samsara. But so long as one considers a mithya object as real, it is as good as real. And the only way to remove the mithya samsara which is considered as real is right knowledge, samyak darshanam. And therefore, the Asanga Satchidananda Atma is drowning in the ocean of samsara. And what does a drowning mean? The Jagadguru says that taking the non self to be the self as I on account of not knowing what that I is, that itself is the drowning. Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharireshu Anatmasu Ahamiti Swarupa Apraptya Sthitireva Samsara Varadhi Magnatvam, he says. And that manifests itself into Agyaha Karta Manusyoham. I am ignorant, I am a doer, I am a human being. These kinds of notions which constitute samsara. And the root cause of that is this beginningless ignorance, Anadi Avidyavashat. Continuing, Tatrapi Sushuptau Samsara Ananubhavat Aviveki Manorupa Upadhimulakattvameva Vaktavyam Samsarasya. Here, Acharya is saying Tatrapi Sushuptau Samsara Ananubhavat. In deep sleep, one does not encounter samsara directly, because when we wake up from deep sleep, we say, I slept well, but I did not experience anything. I do not know what happened. I slept like a log. Sukhamaham aswapsam na kinchid avedisham. is what we say after waking up. And therefore, what we experience then in deep sleep is the ignorance of avidya and the bliss of Atman. The Anandamaya Kosha is operational in deep sleep, and therefore we experience the bliss of the self. So, even though ignorance is present in the deep sleep state, which we then recollect as I did not know anything then after waking up, there are no problems experienced in deep sleep. In fact, we experience bliss only in deep sleep. Everybody sleeps well and is not tormented by any sort of problems. So, because we do not experience the problems of samsara in deep sleep, Acharya says that the root cause of samsara may be ignorance, ignorance of the self. But the problems of samsara are manifest when the mind is active. And that happens in the dream state and the waking state when we encounter various kinds of experiences, both pleasant and unpleasant. The experience of samsara is in the waking state and the dream state. The mind is also in the waking state and the dream state. The experience of duality is also in the waking state and dream state. Therefore, we can draw two conclusions. One, whenever there is duality, there is a problem. And whenever there is duality, the mind is also present. And therefore, Acharya says, despite ignorance being the root cause of samsara, the presence of the mind and the presence of duality is only in the waking and dream states, and it is that experience which is called drowning in the ocean of samsara. And what kind of a mind are we talking about? It is not the mind of a jnani who has the conviction that duality is merely an appearance and what is real is in fact consciousness, and duality is a superimposition on that consciousness. He has that conviction. And the jnani doesn't encounter samsara, he is free from samsara. Whereas it is the ajnani, and it's the ajnani mind more particularly, which is suffering the problems of samsara. That is why Acharya makes this very important statement. Sushuptau samsara ananubhavat aviveki manorupa upadhi mulakatvameva vaktavyam samsarasya. It is the unwise person's mind which is the upadhi or the adjunct for the Atma, and such an upadhi is the cause for samsara. This may lead to the question, if the mind of the unwise person is the cause of samsara, why is it that in Shastra ignorance or avidya is said to be the cause of samsara? And the answer that we give is that the true cause of samsara is ajnana or avidya alone. Because we do not know who the self is or who we really are, we imagine something else to be in its place. Because we do not know that the object in front of us is a rope, we imagine a snake to be there. So, the cause for the projection of the snake is the avidya or ignorance of the rope. Similarly, the cause for the projection of both the mind and the universe is the ignorance of the self. Because we do not see the self or know the self, we imagine something else to be present there. So, the root cause for the superimposition of the world and the mind, because both the mind and the world are merely superimpositions in the self, the cause for that is ignorance of the self. So, that is why the root cause of samsara is said to be ignorance. But the problem of samsara becomes manifest because of the superimposition of the world and the mind. Coming back to our very favorite rope snake example, when we don't see the rope, we assume there is a snake there. And when we assume there is a snake there, the fear of the snake causes problems. Similarly, even though ignorance of the self causes the mind and the world to appear, the projection or the appearance of the world and the mind is because of the ignorance of the self. In reality, both the mind and the world are the self only. But they appear as the mind, they appear as the world. And the problems of the world and the mind are taken to be our problems. Just like the fear of the snake causes problems, the issues with the mind and the issues with the world causes us problems. So the root cause of samsara may be ignorance, but the manifestation of samsara occurs because of the mind. That is what Acharya is saying here. We are talking about not the wise person's mind, because the wise person does not consider the duality that is reported by the mind as real. Even the wise man sees the world. But when he sees the world, he realizes that the world is nothing but a mithya projection on the Brahman. So, intellectually, he is convinced of the reality of Brahman and the mithyatva of the world. Just like when we see a magic trick, as adults, we know it is magic, it is not real. But a child who is seeing it for the first time will think it is real. Similarly, both the Jnani and the Ajnani see the world. But when the Jnani sees the world, he knows that the world is unreal, that in fact what is real is the substratum of the world, existence, consciousness, bliss, the Atma. Whereas the Ajnani does not see the Brahman, he sees the world. There is an interesting verse in Thirumandiram. மரத்தை மறைத்தது மாமதையானை மரத்தில் மறைந்தது மாமதையானை பரத்தை மறைத்தது பார்முதல் பூதமே பரத்தில் மறைந்தது பார்முதல் பூதமே, which essentially says the same concept. When the child sees the wooden toy elephant, it thinks it is the real elephant. Whereas when the grown up sees the same toy, he knows it's a toy, he sees the wood. Similarly, when the wise man sees the world, he sees only Brahman, the underlying reality of the world. He knows that the world isn't real. Whereas when the unwise man sees the world, he thinks that it is a real entity and interacts with it thinking it is real. And therefore, that attribution of reality to the world that is done by the mind of the unwise man, that is the true cause of samsara. That is the problem of samsara. When that avidya becomes adhyasa or superimposition, that the problems really start. Which is why Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada in his Adhyasa Bhashyam also, when he is talking about Anartha Hetu, the source of the problem, he highlights Adhyasa as the source of problem, not Avidya, even though the root cause of Adhyasa is Avidya. Therefore, it is mind which is the cause of samsara. That is why he goes on to say, श्रूयते हि मन एव मनुष्याणां कारणं बन्धमोक्षयोः बन्धाय विषयासक्तं मुक्त्यै निर्विषयं स्मृतम्. That is, we have heard that the cause of liberation and bondage, bandha and moksha, is the mind. And how is the mind the cause of bondage? Bandhaya vishayasaktam. It is the attachment with external objects which is the cause of bondage. And similarly, what is the cause of mukti? Mukti nirvishayam smritam. Non-attachment with objects and abiding in the nirvishaya sthiti, that is, in the non-objective atma, is the cause of mukti. Therefore, it is the mind of the wise man which is the cause of liberation, the mind of the unwise man which is the cause of bondage. इत्यतः विवेचनशून्यस्य मनसः शरीरादिसंसक्तत्वम् आत्मनः संसारवारिधिमग्नत्वम्. Therefore, drowning in the ocean of samsara means the mind of the unwise man, which is devoid of discrimination between what constitutes real and what constitutes unreal, what is desirable and what is undesirable ultimately, which is the cause of association with the body, etc. And therefore, when it is said that the self is drowning in the ocean of samsara, the cause of that is the unwise mind. Continuing, अतः श्रवण मननादि शास्त्रीय संस्कार संस्कृत मनो यदा भवति तदा भ्रमशून्यम आत्म याथात्म्यम ज्ञान अवाप्त्या भवति इति अविवेकी मनः शास्त्रजन्य विवेकवता मनसा उद्धरेत अनात्मभ्योपनयेत. Therefore, when Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada says uddharet atmanatmanam, what he means is through the mind one must overcome the mind. So one must overcome the unwise mind using the wise mind. That is, Shravana Mananadi Shastriya Samskara Samskritam Mano Yada Bhavati. When the mind becomes purified through Shravana, listening to the scriptures for a period of time, Manana, cogitating upon their meaning, Nididhyasana, the abidance in that Brahman, when such a mind becomes purified, then it attains the capability to understand the knowledge of the self, to comprehend it, and to accept it. That acceptability and the comprehensibility of the knowledge of the self occurs for such a purified mind. Atma yathatmya jnana avaptya brahmashunyam bhavati. The mind becomes freed of delusion, devoid of delusion, after getting the right knowledge of the self. अविवेकी मनः शास्त्रजन्य विवेकवता मनसा उद्धरेत् अनात्मभ्योपनयेत्. That is, the unwise mind, aviveki manaha, must be uddharet, must be rescued, must be uplifted through shastrajanya vivekavata manasa, through the mind which is endowed with the discrimination that is born by a study of the scripture. Shastrajanya vivekavata manasa uddharet. And what does that rescue mean? Anatmabhyopanayet. That is, through the viveka or discrimination that is born from understanding the scriptures through a guru, one understands what is real and what is unreal. And therefore, one must cultivate a vairagya towards the unreal, anatma, and develop a love for the self, the atma. And the rescue from the anatma and the sorrows associated with anatma is what is being referred to as the uddharam or the upliftment. तथा च तस्मिन् पराङ्मुखत्वस्वाभाव्यात् बाह्येषु शरीरादिषु सक्ते वस्तुतो सङ्गस्यापि लोहितस्फटिकवत् संसक्तस्य इव भासमानस्य आत्मनः उपाधेरनात्मसम्बन्धाभावे प्रत्यङ्मुखतया आत्ममात्रसंस्थत्वे च आत्मा उद्धृत इव भवति इति भावः. The evolution of the jiva or the redemption of jiva that is spoken about, the uddharam, is only a metaphorical uddharam. Atma uddhrita iva bhavati. And the reason for that is because Atma in its true nature is eternally asanga. It is totally free of all relations. And therefore, in reality, it is not connected with the mind or the body or the world. So none of the problems of the body or the mind or the world really afflict the Atma. Therefore, in reality, the Atma which is eternally asamsari, that is, it is eternally free from samsara, does not really require moksha because its nature is mukta. It is free intrinsically, naturally, eternally. Therefore, the idea of samsara itself is an erroneous notion. The idea of liberation from samsara also, therefore, is erroneous. That is why Gaudapadacharya in the Mandukya Karika says, Na nirodho na chotpattir na baddho na cha sadhakah na mumukshur na vai muktaha ityesha paramarthata. There is no cessation of the world, negation of the world. There is no utpatti or creation of the world. There is no bound jiva, no baddha. There is no sadhaka, the one seeking to be free from that bondage. There is no mumukshu, the one who desires mukti. There is no muktaha, there is no liberated one. Such is the state of paramarthata or ultimate reality. Ultimately, the world does not exist for it to be negated. Therefore, it is not created. The various jivas of the world, those that are bound, those that are seeking to escape that bondage, and those that are free, in reality, there is no differentiation whatsoever. All that exists is the one consciousness. Therefore, Jagadguru Srimad Chandrasekhara Bharati Mahaswami also says, Uddhrita iva bhavati. Atma being eternally free from sangha or any connection or relations is not affected by the unreal bondage of samsara. Then does that mean that all the shastras and the Upanishads and all the human endeavor, the four purusharthas, does it all mean that all of that is meaningless? No, because even though the self in its eternal, intrinsic, natural state is free from relations because of the nature of the mind, which is eternally outward looking, and because the properties of the mind appear to be the properties of the self mistakenly, one thinks that the self is also afflicted by the ailments of the mind. In the Kathopanishad, there is a very famous mantra, Paranchikhani Vyatranat Swayambhus Tasmat Parang Pashtiranantaratman Kaschid Dhiraha Pratyagatmanamikshata Avritta Chakshur Amritatvamichan. Ishvara, or that Swayambhu, has afflicted the mind to be eternally outward looking, and therefore one is caught up in sense objects. One has a natural tendency towards them. Only a very, very select few, Kashchid Dhiraha, that wise man, that intelligent individual, looks inward to seek the self. And here Acharya is saying, Tatha cha tasmin parang mukhatva svabhavya, because that mind has a nature to be extroverted, to be focused externally. Bahyeshu sharirādishu sakte, there is an asakti or an association with external objects such as the body. From the point of view of the self, even the body and the mind are external objects. And therefore, because the mind is outward going, the mind associates with the body, and because one identifies with the mind, one identifies with the body as well. And therefore, vastuto asangasyapi atmanaha, even though naturally, really speaking, the self is asanga, is beyond relations, transcends any sort of connection with anything, it is as though becomes associated. Samsaktasya iva bhasamanasya. Here the word bhasamanasya atmanaha means the atma which appears to be samsakta or associated with the body. And why is that the case? Lohita sphatikavate. So if you look at the sphatikam, which is this crystal, it is naturally transparent. But when we bring a red hibiscus flower that we are using in a puja, so we have a sphatika lingam to which we are doing puja, and we place the red flower on the sphatika lingam, on the transparent Shivalingam. What happens? The Shivalingam appears to be red, and that redness came from the hibiscus flower. The redness is not an intrinsic property of the crystal. The redness belongs to the flower. However, it appears to be red. The crystal itself appears to be red because of the proximity of the hibiscus flower. Similarly, because of the proximity of the body and the mind to the self, it is as though the self becomes tainted with the properties of the body and the mind. And one takes the body's properties such as I am fat, I am thin, I am dark, I am fair, I am tall, I am short, or the properties of the mind, I am sad, happy, angry, jealous. All those properties of the body and the mind are transposed onto the self. I am happy, I am sad, I am fat. However, it is not really I who is all that. I am only I. I am eternally free of the afflictions of the body and the mind, and the properties of the body and the mind. Therefore, Acharya says, Upadehe anatma sambandha bhave, when the self becomes free from the sambandha or connection with the upadhi, the non-self, the adjunct which is the non-self. And when is that the case? When is the self free from the upadhi or the anatma? It is not after the death of the body. It is not even after the rise of jnana. Even right now, the self is free from the upadhi, from the non-self. The self is eternally unconnected with the non-self. When one becomes aware of this, then the self becomes free or redeemed, as it were. We are using the word as it were or figuratively again and again because only if samsara was real would a real moksha be required. Only if these chains were real would a real breaking of the chains be required. When the bondage and the fetters of samsara are themselves unreal, how can we say that the self becomes free from samsara? It was never in samsara to begin with. It is only an erroneous notion because of which one considers the self to be bound by samsara. And therefore, Acharya is saying, Uddhrita iva bhavati ityarthaha. With that, we will pause today's session and we will take up the next verse in the next session. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.